A very, very warm welcome to the foothills of the magnificent Mount Fuji. Second round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS, enjoyed by the drivers and by the Eagles soaring high above this magnificent circuit. The bird, absolutely beautiful, but it is a place where the fans have been thronging in. Saturday was packed, Sunday today looks even busier, and what a great circuit at which to go and watch motor racing. The race yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. All the drivers assembling at the front of the grid. 39 cars began out to play, and they're assembling for their official photo. There's the fabulous view from turn one, looking back down the start-finish straight. Race one was an absolute belter yesterday. Race two, of course, with the drivers who did the second stint of the race yesterday, flipped around, they will be taking the starts. That means a lot of the pro drivers in these Pro-Am lineups will be the start drivers, and the grid order completely reshuffled from yesterday. But the atmosphere down on the grid is phenomenal, and those great big drums being beaten at the front, they reverberate up and down the pit straight. People just now moving up into the grandstands, enjoying that very much indeed. We started the season in mid-May at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand. Then the 4 rounds that formed the Japan Cup element here. Fuji International Speedway, we're here. Then we moved on consecutive weekends to Suzuki and Motegi, and then after that Okayama, and then end the season at Sepang. But the tension as well as the sound is rising here. But let's take a look at the track. 4.563 kilometers, 16 turns. It starts high on the hill, and then it drops down through turn 2, through 100R, the hairpin, the fastest corner of the track, 300R, and then the long climb, the third section, back up to turn 16, Panasonic, the final corner, and then that long straight on which overtaking is absolutely on the cards. Well, let's take a look at what a lap of this circuit is like with last year's champion, Kay Cozzolino.
Hi everyone, this is Kay Cozzolino, driving for Car Guy Racing car number 1, Ferrari 296 GT3, the all-new car, just delivered. It's actually the shakedown here in Fuji Speedway. Going down the straight around 260 kilometers per hour, braking around the 150 meter board, from 6th gear all the way down to 1st gear. It's raining, so we're going to take the wider line. Oh, we see a Lamborghini going off track. Indeed, we do go late as possible on the brake. Now going all the way from 1st gear to 4th gear, turn 2, or Coca-Cola corner, they call it. Down to 2nd gear, just leave a little space on the inside and try to optimize more space on the outside, and then going down the 100R, one of the fastest corners out here on Fuji Speedway. Take the wider line and close in towards the exit, going down the hairpin, down to 2nd gear. Again, here it's raining, so we're going to take the wider line out. Try to stay off the curb, especially when it's wet. And then the famous 300R, usually it's flat out, even if it's dry or wet. Sometimes when it's raining really hard, you got to lift. Anyways, flat out today. And then from here, sector 3, we call it the winding section, very technical, down to 1st gear, Dunlop corner. From 1st up to 2nd gear, try to get the car exit as straight as possible, avoid wheel spin. Turn 13, down to 2nd gear, exactly, just try to open up, and going up to GR Super Corner, again, very wide entry, but very tight exit. Yeah, Herman Tilke, typical design corner, right? And then the final corner, or they call it the Panasonic corner, try to go all the way out and get a very good exit to go up on the straight line, Fuji Speedway. And this was the lap of the Ferrari 296 GT3 in the rain, Fuji Speedway.
Fabulous lap there from Kay Cozzolino. The weather rather better today. Saturday was packed with sunshine. Today it's a little overcast, but it's dry. We'll certainly take that in what is the rainy season. But the atmosphere on the grid is really bubbling up very, very nicely indeed. See the drivers looking down, but yesterday was an absolute belt of a race. Let's take a look at the highlights from race 1. Seeing the top of Mount Fuji any day of the week is a good one, but when you're about to go racing with a record field of 40 cars for the opening round of the Japan Cup, yes please, bring it on. And a brilliant start from the number 29 Phantom Pro Racing Audi, being challenged on the outside by Bingo Racing with Shinji Takai, and trying to go up the middle was Anthony Liu in the red and yellow Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. But with 40 cars, in fact 29, because one was starting from the pits It was very tight indeed. A couple of cars being pushed wide. Comet Racing lost a bit of ground there on the outside, but so fierce. And Anthony Liu quickly moved into second place. And then unfortunately the 992 Absolute Porsche sitting sideways was collected by the number 17 Kref Motorsport McLaren, which led to damage and took that one out of the race. In fact, neither car went any further. The safety car was brought out while some debris was removed from the circuit. Kang Ling then controlled the restart. Anthony Liu pressing so hard. And then all along, the car that qualified on pole but had a 5-place grid penalty driven by Leo Yi, R&B Racing Porsche, got closer and closer. It was about the question of the timing of the pit stops. Absolutely on the marks for Phantom Pro Racing. Still, others had to serve their pit stops. And one of the last to come in was 87, Leo Yi. It didn't quite work for them because when the stagger was unwinding, Bingo Racing with their Corvette were in front. Wait for it, the 87 Porsche should be coming out of the pit lane in the background of the shot. But the car that started to make the progress was the number 4, Dennis Olsen. That was the sister car to Leo Yi's. And then Alessio Picariello started to make the moves, fighting so hard in his red and white Porsche alongside Dennis Lind, who really was resisting like an absolute Viking for Climax Racing in his Mercedes. Yuta Kamimura got very close in the orange Porsche behind, but Bingo Racing were taking it all the way through to the flag. The two friends, Shinji Takai, who started, and Akira Aida, who brought it home at the end. What a wonderful sight. They came here to race for fun and only went and took the biggest trophy of the lot, the winner's trophy. Top in Pro-Am for good measure for Bingo Racing with their venerable Corvette. What a famous day. In the background, Alessio Picariello coming through to take second place, just ahead of Dennis Olsen. But to the winners, the spoils, and the first round of the Japan Cup for 2023, an integral part of Fanatec GT Asia. Well, it was all about Bingo Racing. What a surprise. Well, that was quite a surprise. Will yesterday throw up the same? Well, of course, the grid was shaken around. Driver 2s did the qualifying, and it was a really quick-fire session. Let's take a look at how it all ended up with another Mercedes on pole. Kei Cozzolino was flying in the brand new 296 GT3 Ferrari for Car Guy Racing. We're going faster and faster in perfect conditions. And by the end, he was very close to the pace. In fact, he was good for third in the team's first appearance in 2023. Second fastest was the Climax Racing Mercedes in the hands of Danish driver Dennis Lind. He was very close indeed, but would end up a fifth of a second short of pole. And pole went to another Mercedes team. This time it was Craft Bamboo Racing, and it was the driver drummed in for this weekend, Danny Juncadella, the flying Spaniard, who got the job done. Neat, tidy, and he left it very late, but got the track conditions absolutely spot on to take a hard-earned pole position by 0.2 of a second. Craft Bamboo absolutely delighted with that, as was YZ Racing. 2 poles from 2 starts, 2 attempts in the GT4 class, and in the first session, they took the pole. In the second session, Manobu Orido, using all his experience and local knowledge to perfection to set the fastest time in the GT4 class in the YZ Racing BMW. Back down on the grid, dry conditions, looking absolutely perfect for a race. 1 hour ahead of us. We can see the Craft Bamboo Mercedes on pole position. It's yellow with red stripes on the left-hand side. That's the pit side of the start straight. You can see Dennis Lind's Mercedes on the outside as well. That's from Climax Racing. So it's all Mercedes at the front and a real melee of cars down behind. 12 different manufacturers taking part in GT3, but here, as everywhere, pole position is such an important task to aim for, and Danny Juncadella was the driver who did that right at the end of the session, and his time was the fastest of all. And let's go down and join Amy Izawa on the grid with our pole sitter, Danny Juncadella.
Danny, you must be delighted to start from this position. How do you feel about your competition over there and behind you?
Well, they need to worry. I mean, I just have to look forward. You know, I'm starting in the best possible position, so obviously it's an exciting place to be, and I'm really looking forward to this race. It's going to be, I think, a good show, so I hope we can entertain everybody out there.
Are you planning to maximize your time? Are you staying out longest?
Well, that's usually the idea, because now you have all the pro drivers in the car, so we try to go a bit longer. But it obviously depends a bit on what's happening on track, if there is an incident or there's a safety car, so we will react on whatever happens, but that's the initial plan, yeah.
Good luck in the race.
So that's the thoughts of Danny Juncadere, starting on pole position, the car 37, the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes, one of two AMG Mercedes that the team from Hong Kong has in this race. Another Mercedes on the front row is from Climax Racing, a Chinese team new to the championship. And Amy has been quick across the front, and she's joined the driver who'll be starting from P2, and his name is Dennis Lind.
You had some great battling yesterday. Can we expect more today?
Well, I hope so. I mean, Danny is a bit more experienced with the Mercedes, and we have Alessio, and we also have Kay. So there's a bunch of good drivers up here, and I hope for sure it will be a good battle.
Okay. All the best luck.
Yeah, there really was some brilliant side-by-side racing, and Dennis was involved in one move that took about 3/4 of a lap before it was sorted out. That was a real case of the experts showing, well, the pros showing why they are pros. No slip-ups, just great racing, and this circuit really, really affords that. But what you need to do well in a championship is to be consistently in the points, and AWS Motorsport have done exactly that. Their record so far this year is 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd, and they're starting 4th on the grid today. It'll be taken to the start by Alessio Picariello, but he and his teammate Vutikorn Intrafuvasak have been doing everything right. But of course, they will have an extra 10 seconds at their pit stop because of yesterday's race, so they're going to have to try their very hardest to counteract that deficit. And equally, the team that finished first yesterday will have 15 seconds more at a standstill. That's Bingo Racing, and they're starting quite some way down the field. So don't expect 2 wins from 2 for the Corvette team. The other team with success penalty will be Dennis Olsen as Porsche. He'll be starting from 6th on the grid for R&B Racing. All factors, so all the pro drivers with those penalties waiting for them at the pit stop will be pressing on as hard as they can to try and gain a few seconds that will just give them a helping hand. And one of the cars that was very quick yesterday was the number 87 R&B Racing Porsche. Didn't come out at the top in the end, but certainly showed great pace in the first half of the race. As you look down the grid, Ferraris, McLarens, as I said, 12 different manufacturers represented in the GT3 class. Out of a possible 13, only Bentley of the other manufacturers that make GT3 cars not here. So it's a phenomenal record to have. 35 cars will be starting. But let's go down to join Amy Izawa again, who is with Vutikorn Intrafuvasak. His car will be started by Alessio Picariello from 4th on the grid. It's looking competitive.
No. But you no, it's live, yes.
Oh, really?
So you are a championship leader at the moment. You have been on every single podium, not quite in the middle yet. And you have a lot of success penalties, I know. But what do you think is the key to win the race?
Well, first of all, I have to thank to the team that giving me a very good car. You know, we have a strong pace, and we have to continue our strong pace like this and to be competitive all the time. Even though today we will have a succession penalty of 10 seconds, it will be difficult for sure, but we will try our best.
So how are you splitting time with your teammate? Is Alessio staying out longer?
Yeah, I think so. We'll keep him longer, and because I have another. Well, I can't really tell this is the strategy. So.
Because it's live, you know.
Okay, right. Sorry about this.
But anyways, good luck in the race and see you on the podium.
Thank you so much.
Back to you.
Well, great to hear that Amy's got full confidence they'll make it 4 podiums from 4 starts, but that 10 seconds extra at the pit stop's really going to hurt. So Alessio Picariello, who'll be starting that number 911 from 911 Porsche from the 4th position on the grid, will be doing his utmost to try and get ahead of those 2 front row starters. Danny Juncadere on pole, that's the yellow and red car, number 37, the Mercedes on the left, and Dennis Lind will be starting immediately ahead of him in the number 2 Mercedes from Climax Racing. But well, this is really fantastic news. Kay Cozzolino will be starting 3rd on the grid. He will be carrying one of the onboard cameras, and it should be a really exciting run. Not so much on the formation lap, which we're about to start, but first lap of the race. On that blast down to the first corner. Comet Racing carrying another of our cameras further down the order. They're running in the AM class. And it'll be Yorikatsu Tsujiko, fresh back from Le Mans, one of 8 drivers in this event who were competing last weekend in the centenary of that great 24 hours. So just shows how global racing is. And yesterday's winning car, the Bingo Racing Corvette, what a result for Akira Aida. And he'll be starting some way down the order in 23rd position. So look out for that as the field winds its way down towards the first corner. The Corvette, yesterday's winner, just on the pit wall side. It's yellow behind a group of dark-coloured Mercedes. The Lamborghini that didn't get to start yesterday, oh, what a shame for them. Qualified so high up the grid on 4th position. They didn't get to start. And Cao Chi will be carrying another camera for us. And this is a car in the hands of Ling Kang that led the early stages of yesterday's race for Phantom Pro Racing, one of the other teams from China, getting set to see what they can achieve today. Now, a lot of these crews, the majority of these crews are Pro-Am. Yesterday, the Am drivers started. Today, it's the pros. So Danny Juncadella on pole by 0.2 of a second from Dennis Lind on the all-Mercedes front row. Kay Cozzolino and Alessio Picariello form row 2, Ferrari and Porsche. Then Richie Stanaway, drafted in this weekend by 888. Great run to 5th. Dennis Olsen, real star yesterday for R&B. He starts 6th. Seiji Ara, look for a good result for the BMW crew today. And Tsubasa Kondo going really well for NK Racing. Frankie Chen, top Chinese driver on the grid in 9th, and Lucas Stoltz, expect great guns from him. He set the race's fastest lap yesterday. Maxi Goetz also in a Mercedes, Tomonobu Fuji, and we wind on down the grid. Look also for Alexandre Imperatori. He shouldn't be starting as far back as 18th. Things didn't all go right for him in qualifying. And there's Akira Ida starting 23rd in yesterday's winning car. And so the graphics go on, so many cars in this field, 39 in all. We lost the Kreft Motorsport McLaren with damage from a contact very early in yesterday's race, but that was a record field, and today 39 is almost as good. The weather not quite as bright as yesterday, but sit back and enjoy the action. Maezawa Racing, brand new team with their Ferrari. Naoki Yokomizo, so many years of experience, another driver who was at Le Mans last weekend. He's starting down in 21st, so we've got quite a few big names back down the pack, but the names at the front are perhaps the brightest of all. And that is Danny Juncadella on pole, Dennis Lind alongside, already a winner in the past in Fanatec GT Racing in Asia. Kay Cozzolino, Alessio Picariello, Richie Stanaway, Dennis Olsen, heady names at the front of this packed field of cars. It's the rainy season. We look set for an hour of racing in the dry, but in the mountains things change fast. It's much more humid today, but as this enormous grid comes out of turn 16, the final corner, onto the start-finish straight, the stage is set, and what a stage it is. The last few cars and the GT4 runners will complete the grid, just coming up to the final corner now. So if it's like yesterday, the safety car will peel off all neat and tidy. It was a very long hold yesterday, nervous tension in the pits. Is it going to be a long hold or a quick flick today? Let's wait and find out. Waiting, bit of a gap from Cozzolino to the pole starting. Mercedes should have closed it up a bit, but Danny Juncadella looks neat and tidy. Dennis Olsen, the purple Porsche, trying to go up the middle. Cozzolino getting blocked, and what a move coming up the order from Ben Porter in the AMAC Motorsport Porsche. Down the middle order, getting quite a few positions. First 2 rows seem to be running in order, but we've got a spinner, and the car's spinning right in the background to go around the outside. Alvaro Perent is one of those who had to take the wide line. Eduardo Liberati picking up places for KCMG. But I think the first pucker overtake of the race at the front order is Alessio Picariello, pushing Kay Cozzolino wide. Muscular, but looked pretty fair into turn 3, it must be said. Got to identify for you the driver who had the spin and sat in the middle of the pack, facing the cars at turn 1. But for Danny Juncadella, he got the job done from pole position. Now it's fast, it's furious, and it's very, very fraught down in the middle order. Top 4, only one shuffle in that pack. And that was Kay Cozzolino in that bright yellow Ferrari, going from 3rd down to 4th, almost getting a shove there from Richie Stanaway. Dennis Olsen uses that moment at turn 11 into turn 12 to get the purple Porsche up a position, and it was a pale blue car. It was the Team Gojugan car that got it wrong, or maybe was given a helping hand at turn 1. So very, very disappointing there. That Nissan, such a popular car, the Nismo GTR, spun at turn 1. So sad. Let's hope they get going. Nose to tail stuff. Drivers still weaving on the start-finish straight. Have they spotted? Are we having a safety car? Just waiting to see. Look as though they've backed off a little bit. I think they probably had safety car. Yeah, that's the message on the screen. We're slightly worried they were still weaving there, but safety car coming out into battle. So the debris that's probably come off the Nissan down in the first corner can be cleared. 39 cars into one turn, very seldom work. Yesterday we had the same number, but they all got through. Today the one spinner, and maybe some of the other cars would have picked up damage. The car that spun, the Nissan, being pulled clear, and such a popular team, Team Go Jigen, but unfortunately for them, it's all about the fifth dimension, and they didn't even get to the third, didn't even get to turn 2. And quite often when you're sitting facing the wrong way at the first corner, it's almost invariably not been your fault. A push and a shove would have sorted you out. Now, a couple of cars way down the order you'd expect further up, just outside the top 10. In fact, in 10th place, Maxi Gertz, and in behind his craft Bamboo Racing, that's car number 77, is the very popular D-Station Racing Aston Martin, just at the top of your picture, black with the green trims. And D-Station is one of 2 teams, along with Car Guy Racing, based literally 200, 400 metres maybe down the slope from the east entry to this fabulous circuit. So they don't have to go very far. But it's a car that if it hadn't transgressed in the pitch yesterday, it would have probably won the race, the D-Station Racing Aston Martin. Today they have to get it all over again, but let's take a look back at a replay of the start of the race where it was really very tight. Nice and tidy getaway from Danny Juncadere on pole position, Dennis Lint behind from second place. You can see a few drivers already making moves. The purple Porsche of Dennis Olsen trying to get positions. Car Guy Racing Ferrari nipping left, ducking right, trying to find a way past the pole starter. Neat, tidy. Alessio Picarillo went down the outside. Now I want to see who shoved the Nissan. Oh, 2 cars were involved. Right, Car Guy Racing looking to do everything bar push the pole starter out of his way as they went down to the first corner. Didn't want contact, that would hurt. Around the outside the shot, Alessio Picarillo will just come into view. You can see Dennis Lint got his nose in front into turn 1, but being on the outside line, he had to back it off. And Danny Juncadere kept hold of that first position as they went out of turn 2 down the slope to turn 3, but as soon as they came up onto the start-finish straight, the message was coming through, safety car on circuit. So that is why, riding with Maezawa Racing in their brand new Ferrari, it's a weave the wheel. Naoki Mizo not missing any opportunity to get a bit more heat in the tyres as the cars slow down behind the safety car. Safety car will be in this lap, I'm told. So the lights still flashing on the roof, but the roof bar on that car will be extinguished halfway round the lap. That's the point at which the message is sent, if it hasn't been sent by the teams already to their drivers, to let them know. Take a look in the middle of the pack, and unfortunately one of the Phantom Pro Racing Audis spun it around, and that was the treble 3 car, and that picked up a puncture for the contact. I sense that the Nissan didn't spin on its own, and the puncture has been has delayed the treble 3 Phantom Pro Racing Audi, but it's made its change and joins at the very tail of this field. But you really have to feel for Shintaro Kawabata. Over and out for him, a very, very short race, and his teammate Hirobon didn't even get to have a go in today. So we started with 39 cars, and with the treble 3, there it is, the Phantom Pro Racing car with that puncture having been repaired, back out onto the circuit. Needs to get a move on to try and catch the tail of the field. Of course he can close up, but he is already a lap in arrears. Safety car, let's just reiterate the message in at the end of this lap. So right now the race leader Danny Juncadere is having a little think about the restart. Dennis Lint, his job is to react to the very second, or nanosecond if he chooses, that Danny Juncadere floors the throttle on the race-leading Mercedes. Of course, he has the advantage being in front. He cannot be overtaken before the cars reach the start-finish line. But if Dennis Lint can get right under his tail, he'll get the toe down the start-finish straight. In third place, Alessio Picarillo will be thinking, what's better than a toe, a double toe? And likewise, Kei Cozzolino in behind. Dennis Lint is showing precisely what he wants to do. Danny Juncadere, now he goes. But Dennis Lint, completely aware of what was happening and reacted supremely fast. So the order on the restart is Juncadere, Lint, Picarillo, Cozzolino, Olsen, Stanaway, Kondo, Cheng, Ara and Gertz. That's the top 10. Dennis Olsen in the background is really getting a fantastic tow, trying to take fourth place, but Dennis Lint in second place. It's the Dennis is on the charge, is taking it to the driver at the front, Danny Juncadere, but Danny's been round the block more than a few times. You only offer the outside line into turn 1, and it's not much of an offer. Likewise, Kei Cozzolino is suggesting to Dennis Olsen, if you're coming round, you're on the outside. Dennis Olsen has taken Matty's word. He's driven out round the outside, off the track 4 wheels, I would suggest. I'll have to look at that from the stewards, but he's up into 4th position. So it's Mercedes, Porsche, Ferrari, and Mercedes. So really the driver who's gained the most since the start of the race has been Dennis Olsen, 6th up to 4th. Alessio Picariello, 4th up to 3rd. And I'm very impressed with Tsubasa Kondo. He's running in lofty company here in that number 25 NK Racing Porsche. So a good run for him. These are some of the creme de la creme of the world's GT3 runners competing here in Fanatec GT Asia. First 3 making a tiny little bit of a break as they go through the 3rd sector, the winding sector as Cozzolino described it, from turn 10 all the way up to turn 16, but it's out of turn 16 that's so important for these drivers. A good exit or a better exit than the car in front, and you'll get close enough to take advantage of a tow down the long start-finish straight. But it looks as though there's just a tiny bit of breathing space for Danny Juncadella ahead of Dennis Lind. This lap, the second half of the lap, has been very good for the race leader. Yep, he's slightly broken the toe before it was even formed. Dennis Olsen getting clear in 4th, then Cozzolino, Stanaway, Kondo, Cheng, Ara. Looks as though the D-Station Racing Aston Martin's in trouble because Edoardo Liberati, the KCMG Honda driver, he shares that car with the team boss, Paul Ip. He's going to be the driver, surely, that shows how to use the toe here. But if anybody knows how to block a move and knows this circuit so well, is local ace Tomonobu Fuji. Could have been a winner yesterday. This car has no success penalty from yesterday's race. It didn't achieve much success because of that drive-through penalty. In fact, drive into the pits and stop for a second. But today, along with his teammate Satoshi Hoshino, there could be good things for D-Station Racing. But I must say, this battle for 11th place with Edoardo Liberati pressing so hard, it's good to see a Honda right in the mix here. Looking for the shaping of the race at the front. Danny Juncadella leading from Dennis Lind, those 2 Mercedes. But look, the second half of the top 10 so busy. Down to 10th place is Maxi Gertz, 11th and 12th still the Aston Martin and the Honda, still for GE and Liberati. Wow, this is competitive stuff, and this is a circuit that really encourages racing, and Edoardo Liberati doesn't need any more encouragement, but Tomonobu Fuji, a fantastic overtaker in his own right, is also pretty good at defending, but looks as though, wow, that's the tightest of tight lines that was taken there on the ascent, on the climb back at the end of the lap. But again, Fuji, what cracking racing. This really goes to show, not only is Aston Martin really good around here, but Fuji knows every single trick in the book. Still working the toe, surely this time he must get enough of a toe to dictate which side he goes. All Fuji can do is hug the inside. Where is the slingshot going to come? Wait for it. The longer you wait before you make the dive, the better the slingshot. But Fuji, well, he's doing about the maximum number of moves. Is the Honda going to dive up the inside? Of course it's going to have a go. Will the Aston Martin go a little bit wide and let it through? Yes, he has, and he's very nearly lost the next place to Seiji Ara as well in the BMW. That was staunch attack, pretty staunch defence as well, but finally the move was completed. All that for 11th place. Not bad, is it? The 992 Porsche in the background of the shot. Alexandra Imperatori, that was the car that was spun around very early yesterday. Didn't get to finish the race, but the Swiss driver who lives in China is looking very competitive in that. So Absolute Racing will be pleased that that Porsche is working its way up through the field. Almost impossible to know where to look. So many brilliant battles up and down this order. Alvaro Perez looking quite punchy, the number 72 Hub Auto Racing Porsche gaining positions. Now in the GT AM class, it's very competitive. It's Ben Porter's gone into the lead of that. There is his AMAC Motorsport Porsche. He looked brilliant at the start of the race, definitely gained a few positions on that run down to the first corner. And he's leading the GT3 AM class by several positions from the number 3 Climax Racing Mercedes in the hands of Albin Yi. Gosh, there just isn't enough space on the track for all these cars. Yesterday's race winner, the Bingo Racing Corvette, is just behind the Lamborghini, which is trying to get past one of the Porsches, nipping, ducking, and a little mistake from the Lamborghini driver there, Hiroshi Hamaguchi, and the driver did say bingo in the Bingo Racing Corvette. Position gain, he's trying to pick off another one, the Porsche just in front of him, covering its ground. There's another one from EBM Giga Racing. never say never. That's the approach from Hiroshi Hamaguchi. And having gained the position, suddenly it goes back the other way for Bingo Racing. And Akira Aida doesn't quite make the move stick. But then he does, just 2 corners later. Or does he into turn 3? Lamborghini just across his bows. The Maezawa Racing Ferrari is right in that mix as well. Naoki Okamitsu in the treble 5 Ferrari. Tucked in behind the Porsche Center Okazaki car as well. And very bad news coming the way of the treble 3 Phantom Pro Audi. That was the one that spun the Nissan at the first corner, so he not only picked up a puncture, but penalty to go with it, a stop and go. Into the pits, come stationary. See a little bit of loose bodywork on the left rear corner of Hiroshi Hamaguchi's Lamborghini, the only Huracan in the race, and Hiroshi's raced all round the world, almost always in Lamborghinis, and he'll be a little bit disappointed, but it's inevitable there'll be a tiny bit of contact when the racing is as close as it is here. Almost feel as though you should say meanwhile at the front, but actually let's go meanwhile towards the tail of the field where we have to look for our 4 GT4 runners. And Manabu Orido leading the way for YZ Racing with BMW Team Studi. The BMW M4 GT4, so popular in this subclass of GT3 racing, of GT racing, not GT3 racing. Quite a few of the teams, in fact 3 of the teams from last year's Fanatec GT Asia Series moved up to compete in this year's GT3, so it's a progression Formula 2. Now, talking of progression, Danny Juncadella resisted everything Dennis Lin could throw at him. He controlled the restart very nicely, and he's now got an advantage of it was just under 1.2 seconds at the start of this lap. It looks so it's extending further because Dennis Lind is now under increasing pressure from the Porsche of Alessio Picariello. Worth pointing out, though, that Picariello's car running third will have to spend an extra 10 seconds at a standstill during its pit stop. Dennis Olsen, who's 4th behind him, will have to spend an extra 5 seconds at the pit stop. This is because they finished 2nd and 3rd yesterday. And the Bingo Racing Corvette, which we saw Akira Aida fighting so hard in, for just 19th position, because he won yesterday's race, he'll have to have an extra 15 seconds. So they're all going to struggle to stay up where they are in this race order. For Alessio Picariello, his absolute job at the moment is trying in his AAS Motorsport Porsche to pass Dennis Lind and put another buffer to the cars that are behind him, because that extra time in the pit stop is really, really going to hurt. And if you can suck up an extra 10 seconds at a pit stop and still achieve what would be their 4th podium finish from 4 starts in the 2023 series, then you really are set for a championship. So, Juncadella, Lind, Picariello, purple Porsche of Olsen, Cozzolino, then Richie Stanaway, Kondo in the turquoise Porsche, then the best of the Audis, Frankie Cheng, Maxi Goetz and Eduardo Liberati, and further back behind, yesterday's race winner Akira Aida up along the pit wall. He's had this perpetual battle with the Lamborghini, and it's ended very badly indeed. Contact on the start-finish straight. A few other cars immensely lucky to avoid that, but with the Corvette snapping to the left across the nose of the Lamborghini, it is over and out for both of those drivers as they started lap 9. Big moment. Very fortunate that neither of those cars collected another as they bounced off the barriers. Well, the Corvette bounced off the barriers on the left-hand side of the track from the driver's point of view. I do expect a safety car will be triggered because both those cars, particularly the Corvette, which is sitting dead ahead at the first corner, is in a position of danger. So, just still waiting. Safety car signal, yeah, there it is. Bear in mind, it was an advantage of nearly 1.4 seconds that Juncadella had in the lead of this race over Dennis Lind. Of course, that will come down with the arrival of the safety car at the back of the pack. So that means Danny Juncadella will have to control the restart all over again. He did a good job last time round. Dennis, there is our race leader. He'll have got the message coming down the start-finish straight. You can see the grid markings there. So for the second time of asking, his lead will be reduced. Good to see Akira Aida's fine, walking away from his car. That was a bucking bronco of a ride. And as you can see, debris all over the circuit from where he hit the barriers just on the right-hand side of our screens. And Dennis Lind, Alessio Picariello, Dennis Olsen, Cozzolino, et al. Weaving their way past the bits of bodywork, but importantly past the sharp shards that always litter a track after you've had contact of that magnitude. Just to the left of our shot is where Hiroshi Hamaguchi is coming through. Let's see how this happened. It was very competitive. We had the top 10 runners coming through, and then there came the Corvette trying to make a run, using the slipstream to get past Hiroshi Hamaguchi, hammering down the straight, and then a little bit of contact and right across the nose of the Lamborghini and slamming hard into the barriers, clattering back into the flank of the Lamborghini, which then spun around. And certainly for GMB Racing, very, very fortunate there. Mercedes got through without being caught out in all of that. Porsche's Enter Okazaki also locking up into turn 1 in avoidance. The Lamborghini ended up beached further around the corner between turn 1 and 2, but most importantly the Bingo Racing Corvette was absolutely straight ahead. That is why the safety car is there, and good to see that Hamaguchi has got out of the Lamborghini. Yesterday they didn't get to start the race, and already people getting suited up for the second half of this race, just in case. Pit window opens after 25 minutes of the race, so we've still got plenty of time to go. It's open for 10 minutes, but right now it's the clear up operation, and let's hope that nobody picked up any punctures going through the scene of the crime, which was before turn 1, into the approach to turn 1, into turn 1 itself. Hopefully the marshals, when this field has bunched up, has closed up, will have enough time to get out on the track and sweep it clear. Riding on board some of the cars further down the field. This is Yorikatsu Tsujiko, running 4th in the AM class in the Comet Racing Ferrari. This is last year's championship winning car, who won the title in the hands of Keiko Zolino last year, but this year it's moved on to another team, as Kay's team has moved on from the 488 Ferrari to the brand new 296, the latest tool from the Ferrari GT3 box. So let's just run you down the top dozen positions and more. In fact, top 19 positions filled by runners in the Pro Am class. For those in the pits looking on, waiting, their time will come. The top Silver Cup class runner is car number 87, and that's Bo Yuan, R&B Racing Porsche. And that's a car that shone very well yesterday, led the race. Car number 87 in the hands of his partner, Liu Yihong Li. GT3 AM being led, as I said, but by a bit further down the order by Ben Porter. In fact, a bit further up the order, Ben Porter's done very well. He's got up to 20th position in that bright red, sort of pink and white Porsche. You can see it in the middle of the pack, weaving around, trying to keep the heat in the tyres. The Lexus, good to have that in the field this weekend. Well, there is still plenty of debris on the track. Let's go down and hear from Mineki Akura with Amy.
大倉選手、まさかホームストレートでっていうところなんですけど、何が起きたか分かりますか？
僕もちょっと直接見てなかったんですけど、前の週からいいバトルはしてたんですけど、多分ストレートでちょっと当たっちゃって、それで、絡んじゃってだと思うんですけど。
Well, so he doesn't really know what happened, but they have been battling a few laps already. It was great battling, and then it just happened like that on the home straight. 浜口選手大丈夫ですか？はい、
体は大丈夫で、ただ車がちょっとドアが開かなかったみたいなんで、はい。
So Hamaguchi is okay. It's just that the door didn't open, so they're having quite some issues around that, but he is okay, so that's good. では次のレースに期待したいと思います。
昨日もちょっとトラブルで、僕今週走ってないんで、はい、鈴鹿はちょっと浜口さん欠席されるんで、はい、また違うパートナーと出る予定です。はい。
応援してますんで、
はい、よろしくお願いします。どうも。
So it's very unfortunate because he didn't get to race this weekend, but they're looking forward to the next race in Suzuka. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Amy. And Mineki Akura was such a star in qualifying, qualified right at the front end of the field. But taking another look at the replay, it was side by side, door handle. The nose of the Corvette just in front, but he was coming across a little bit, and Akira Aida then pivoted around the nose of Hiroshi Hamaguchi's Lamborghini. Got the tail of his car high in the air, but actually the barriers really did their job and fed the car down towards the ground trap at turn 1. And that point about how long it took for Hiroshi Hamaguchi to get out of the car, you know, you sense the cars have done what they need to do in terms of their safety cells, but it's always a long wait for drivers to get out. So thank you to Mineki Akura for letting us know that Hamaguchi-san is okay, but this is a weekend that could have been great for them, and I was really looking forward to see what Mineki Okura could have done had he been given a shot in the second half of this race after the driver changes. That certainly would have been one of the cars that was going to come in fairly early in the pit window. So the race goes on. We have still 37 and a half minutes of this race to go. The pit window will open fairly soon, in the next 2.5 minutes or so. Now, great variety. The McLaren going out to the bottom of the screen. That was one of 3 of those that started yesterday. And a Lexus. Great to have one of those on board. Lexus RCF from K-Tunes Racing. Morio Nitta starting that. And we'll hand over to Kazunori's Suinaga. So great variety. Now, at the front of the field, all the drivers waiting to see any message from the safety car or from their crews. Will it come in this lap? Certainly not, because the lights are still flashing. But there is still a lot of debris to be cleared at turn 1. But with each lap, the length of the field behind the safety car shortens as the drivers further back close in, which gives more time for the marshals down at turn 1 to get that debris swept away. But there was a lot of it, because even though you had the foreshortening image from the camera at turn 1, it did cover a large distance from the point, passing the pit wall where those 2 cars clashed. And then the Bingo Racing Corvette snapped to the left, bashed into the barriers, flipped up into the air, tail high, and then came down, clouted the Lamborghini again, and then off they both went into the gravel at turn 1. The bad news for all these pro drivers is the fact that they're wasting their time on the track when they should be using their absolute utmost and all their skills to try and stretch an advantage. But they're having to run at a bated pace, and particularly for Alessio Picariello, running 3rd in that queue. There we are, the red and white Porsche from AWS Motorsport. He was one of the drivers who has time he needs to really try and gain. That means he wants to be at full racing speed, because his pit stop will be 10 seconds longer than those that don't have success penalty from yesterday. And likewise, Dennis Olsen running 4th in the R&B Racing purple Porsche will have 5 seconds extra at a standstill, and the car that had the most success penalty, 15 seconds extra penalty time in the pit stop, is the Corvette that is out of the race. It matters not for them. AM class leader, he'll be handing over to Andrew McPherson as late as he can, because Ben Porter is the quicker of that Australian duo. Just in the background of the shot there, Amac, Porsche. For so long they ran Lamborghinis, but faithful racers in this series. Andrew McPherson will be taking that over in the second part of the race. The pit window is going to open in 21 seconds. The safety car, however, is still out. So for the teams, they've got to decide their tactics. But for Ben Porter running in 20th, he's got 3 other cars between his car and the car that's next in the AM class, which is the number 3 Climax Racing Mercedes. Up front, of course, the order doesn't change. Waiting for message about the safety car withdrawing. Great chance as we look down through the field to see just how many manufacturers are represented here. 12. There are only 13 manufacturers that build cars or have cars homologated for 2023 in GT3. We've got 12 of the 13 in this field that has set records. He can equal the largest ever record for GT3 cars in a field in Japan. That was set in 2019 at the Suzuka 10 Hours, an international invitation race. But this is a real bounce back. We had 25 cars at the opening race of this year's Fanatec Asia Series in Thailand. 25 there, 40 here. It's a record field, and just shows the strength of the racing all around the globe, but particularly in Asia that was hit so hard. 2 years we didn't have this championship because of COVID restrictions, but to say we're back in strength is almost to undersell how strong the resurgence has been. So full marks to Benjamin Franasevici and the team for getting this number of cars, not just the number of cars, but the quality of cars and teams that we have on display here today. Another lap will be run behind the safety car. I think the drivers can see every lap as they come through. There is still clean-up operation going on. The track has been swept clear, but last time around they went past the Corvette as it was being winched up and put onto a flatbed. So clearly it was going to take a few more minutes. Hopefully, maybe at the end of this lap. Yes, the message just come through. Safety car in at the end of this lap. We'll go back to full-speed racing. Now, the big question, how many cars will dive straight into the pits? If they all do, it's going to be very, very busy indeed. How do the teams play it? How long do they wait? In GT4, by the way, you might have expected the YZ Racing BMW to be in the lead of the field. Well, you're wrong. It's Akiland Racing. There it is, car number 71. Masayoshi Oyama will be waiting to take it over, but Ryuhei Sakaguchi, who does a lot of racing in his native Japan, also competes in Super GT 300. There he is, leading the class. Sorry, Akiland is leading it, and then the AM category in GT4 is the 718 Porsche in behind. Czech shop Caymania Racing, the one Cayman 718. So GT4 has silver AM and AM. Obviously the AM grouping has 2 AM drivers. The silver AM has a silver and an AM. It does what it says on the tin. And the BMW that dominated yesterday took pole today in the hands of Manabu Orido. Will be coming to the back of the shot shortly, but is running 4th in class. There it is. Sorry, running 3rd in class. Between them is the LM Corsa Ferrari. You can see the blue Ferrari with the red, white and green Italian stripes up its bonnet, over the roof and down its tail. So GT4 being led by the Akiland Racing Toyota Supra, but the message is through to the drivers. They're winding it up the slope, coming through the final corner. Panasonic and Dennis Lint is going to see if he can get a really good tow from Danny Juncadella as they drive down. The pit window is open if you choose like diving in, and none of the pro drivers feels like that. Expect the first 20 or so cars to continue as long as they can before the pit window closes and they hand over to their AM teammates. It's always tricky for a driver. Oh, the challenge is coming for 3rd place. Alessio Picariello, Porsche against Porsche, and a little bit of contact from Dennis Lin tags the tail of the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes of Danny Juncadella on the approach to turn 1. There we were looking at the battle for 3rd place. And the race leader is out in the gravel. Is that out of the race? I cannot tell you. What I can tell you, though, we have Alessio Picariello getting exactly where he wanted to be. He's in 3rd place. Dennis Lin survives the contact. He stays 2nd. Dennis Olsen up to 3rd. Kei Cozzolino up to 4th. It's a real case of up everyone except for the previous race leader, Danny Juncadella. The smallest of touches just when the car was unweighted into turn 1, and round when that number 37 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. Anthony Liu in the pits will be absolutely livid. They've already picked up a win in the 2nd race last time out in Thailand in the opening rounds of Fanatec GT Asia. But right now the driver in the lead knows he's got to try and build up as much of a margin as he can, because that AAS Porsche car number 911 has an extra 10 seconds to serve at its pit stop. It'll feel like 10 minutes, that extra time. Dennis Lint in 2nd place has no extra time at his pit stop, so he's sitting fairly pretty for Climax Racing. And his teammate Zhu Bizhuang will be going, yeah, just press on as long as you can. So nose to tail is exactly the order of the day. Now the driver making progress, but he's not nicking out of the slipstream. To get out of the slipstream, he's diving into the pits. The first of the pit visitors now starting to come in. Looks though Frankie Cheng will be the first of those. Basically the back end of the top 10, but Picariello leads from Dennis Lin, Olsen, Cozzolino, and already cars coming out of their pit stops. The Porsches enter Okazaki. Porsche came out, and the Mezawa Racing Ferrari as well. And just at the bottom of the shot, a few seconds ago at turn 1, you could see that the previous leading Mercedes from Craft Bamboo Racing is going nowhere. Didn't know if it was going to recover. It hasn't. And the Porsche Center Okazaki, number 18 Porsche, whacked a little bit sideways at turn 3, and that was Hiroaki Nagai just getting up to speed, up to temperature at the front of the field. But Alessio Picariello has absolutely picked up his skirts and run, because he should have been just on the nose of Dennis Lint's Porsche, which we can see up ahead. We're riding in the 4th place Ferrari of Kei Cozzolino, who's got Dennis Olsen behind him, but the gap to the race leader, Kei Cozzolino, has absolutely stretched out. Oh, good battling towards the end of the top 10. It was outside the top 10 before, but Eduardo Liberati in that white and blue KCMG Honda gets past number 25, which has been driven so well by Tsubasa Kondo. The pressure has told, though, and it's great to have another manufacturer working its way up towards the front of the field. The Honda going very, very well indeed. That's up to 7th place overall. But boy, it's difficult when drivers come out of the pits and they're right in front of the lead group. Oh, change for 2nd place. Dennis Olsen, he's also got penalty time in the pit stop to try and eliminate. So he moves ahead of Dennis Lind into the final corner. Not often do you get an overtaking manoeuvre there. This battle for second couldn't have been fiercer. We don't want any more contact on the start-finish straight. We've had quite enough of that. Thank you with the Corvette and the Lamborghini, but Dennis Olsen couldn't go further to the inside if he tried his back four wheels on the circuit. And the sister car from R&B Racing just coming out of the pit lane. That stays out of the way, doesn't get in his way, but does get in the way of Dennis Lind. It worked like a dream. It wasn't intentional, but the 87 Porsche had to go somewhere. And you could say that maybe that was wise driving from Leo Yi, but it would be a big thank you for the driver of the purple Porsche, the sister car from Dennis Olsen. Looking to see who's trying to gain places behind. Car Guy Racing, Kay Cozzolino goes around the outside of the Porsche. That's a lap down after its pit stop. But Kay knows in this Car Guy Racing Ferrari he has to serve his pit stop sometime soon, but not, well, it's going to be quite tight. Should just be able to do this lap and the next to dive in. For the race leader, it should be fairly safe. For Alessio Picariello, for Dennis Olsen in second place. Dennis Lind in third place. I'm really impressed by the pace of Edoardo Liberati in that KCMG Honda, and up the escape road went the second of the Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. I think he was a bit surprised by the line that was being taken up ahead of him by the Honda, and through the escape road went Luca Stoltz. Don't forget, Luca won the first race of the championship. Hasn't been their weekend this time around for he and Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim. So Alessio Picariello not going for the pits. I think he would have just scraped in, but Dennis Olsen pits from second place. In behind, Dennis Lind will be coming in as well. Some of the, well, Picariello did not pit. Kay Cozzolino did pit, stand away. I'm just trying to see if anybody else. I think Picariello just had enough space to do one more lap, just enough time to go. He's got to get into the pits within 1 minute from now, and he's only part way round the lap. Has he cut it too fine? I'm sorry, by the way, it wasn't Lucas Stoltz going up the escape road. Another Mercedes driver from Germany, Maxi Goertz, and in the background of the shot, Maxi Goertz looks like he's picked up trouble. Now, Kay Cozzolino in for Car Guy Racing. Car number one going into the hands of Takeshi Kimura. They've done the driver change many times, but don't forget last year and the year before it was a 488 Ferrari. Maybe it's slightly different on board the new shape 296 GT3. We know it's fast, but it's about learning. Pressing on, Alessio Picariello stayed out while those behind, almost all of them came in. Edoardo Liberati also went out. And all Alessio Picariello is trying to do is stretch any margin that he can gain. Belgian race has done a lot of his racing in the Far East and picked up by Porsche. So Vucicon into Fuvasak, his teammate, we heard from him before the start of the race. He wasn't prepared to divulge tactics. I never understand why they don't do that. But so this time around, wait for it. That 911 Porsche, if it doesn't come in, he's leaving it very late. The pit window. Oh, it's been extended. Just getting a message from race control about that, because they weren't allowed to come in at the opening of the pit window because of the safety car. I just didn't, I'm waiting for a signal of how much time was added. I thought Picariello was cutting it a bit fine. However, through he goes. Dennis Lind continued, Edoardo Liberati behind. Second and third, two on the screen. Doesn't mean second place, but it is in second place. And pretty much everybody else has served a pit stop. I think Ben Porter didn't come in. In fact, he moved up to sixth place overall. That's not bad for a car in the AM category. This is great racing. Fuji International Speedway really does provide not just a fabulous backdrop, but a great arena for these drivers. Gives them an opportunity to overtake Takeshi Kimura, almost going up the inside of the BMW there. And they're vital first moments when the drivers get out on the circuit. They've just got to get the feel of the track, the feel of the grip in their tyres. And certainly since the number 13 Audi was taken over from Frankie Cheng by Jingsu Sun, that is making a move on. There it is at the top of the shot, bright blue car. So expect that one to move its way up the order. But Alessio Picariello, pit window still open. We're 1.5 minutes past the point at which it would normally have closed, but with the safety car coming out, pit window was delayed. Now, look at the left rear tyre. The rear tyre just behind the incoming driver, that Craft Bamboo car. We saw it go down through turn one, and so very disappointing from Maxi Goertz there. So for Craft Bamboo Racing, it's not happening. And this time around, in comes the race leader, Alessio Picariello. His lead over Dennis Lind went down to 8.7 seconds. And look, right up to the line, Picariello was carrying as much speed as he could, almost getting that AAS Motorsport Porsche sideways. In he comes. Dennis Lind surely will dive in as well. But just remember, he was 8 or so seconds behind. Pit window still open, but this is the point at which Vutikon Fuvasak will be hopping up and down on the balls of his feet, waiting for his car, that AAS Motorsport Porsche, run by Absolute Racing, to come to a halt in front of his pit garage. There is the white-suited Ty waiting to run around. That was a very, very good stint from Alessio Picariello. He started 4th, quickly worked his way up to 3rd place, and as soon as he got an opportunity, he stretched it as far and as long as he could. Safety car procedure for car number 29 will be examined after the race. That's Phantom Pro Racing, one of their 2 Audis, the one shared by Lin Kang and Cao Kui. So I think it would be the latter, who was the driver that started the race for them, who could be under investigation. And though I talked about the gap of 8.7 seconds from Picariello back to Dennis Lind, of course Dennis Lind had been demoted by Dennis Olsen, and Picariello's advantage was 6 seconds, and now going very slowly. A car that I fancied for a good result yesterday. Has there been contact? The number 5 BMW limping around, Tomohide Yamaguchi. Now he hooks it up all over again. It just looked as though the car had been knocked out of gear. Fumbled to find some form of traction, some form of motive power. That was down at turns 10 and 11 at the bottom of the hill. Oh dear, and the BMW that won GT4 yesterday off the track right towards the end of the lap. So this race, I thought yesterday's race had plenty of action. It's all over the place today, so much going on. Masaki Kano, right, now, where does Vutikon Fuvasak slot into position? The fact that number 2 Mercedes is closed onto his tail just shows how much that extra time at a pit stop has cost them. So it's Zhu Biguang who's coming out of the pits very close behind Vutikon Fuvasak. Akilan Racing Toyota still going great guns in GT4, but actually has been overtaken by the GT4 AM runner, 718, the Porsche Cayman, and then contact. And Vutikon Fuvasak has had a very short race. He's been put off in contact. This race is quite extraordinary. He gets it going again. How much damage has been done to the car? It's quite difficult to get off the grass. That was last wet on Thursday before conditions dried up. Smallest of contact. Let's take a look at the replay. Coming through turn 3, looking absolutely fine, and dandy. Car number 2 gets in behind Zhu Biguang, and is there a tiny bit when the car's a tiny bit of contact? Little bit of rub on one side of the car, but it hit the wall fairly four square. No, slightly more on the tail. That probably will lead to a degree of damage. So the car that's finished on the podium, well, a big shunt on the start-finish straight. The number 77 Mercedes already had its problem with a puncture, and it has gone around. That's Jeffrey Lee just taken over from Maxi Gertz. Big contact on the start-finish straight. So the pit stops had all been completed, and we have the 3rd safety car period of this extraordinary race. Really tight, really competitive. So a car will be possibly right in the slipstream of, well, there wasn't one. I thought one was so close behind that it would be in the slipstream. We'd see it popping out, but something must have gone pop on that car. A tyre going down, driver at maximum acceleration. Jeffrey Lee had only just taken that over, and round it goes. So unbelievable degrees of incident here, and most important thing is that Jeffrey Lee is okay, and this happened just moments after we had the problem that pitched Vutikon Fuvasak out of the lead of the race after the pit stops. Debris all over the start-finish straight. Drivers very wise. They're going over. They're being flagged by the marshals to go over to drivers left, to go over towards the grandstand to steer clear of the debris there. It's very, very unusual to have incidents on the start-finish straight. We've had 2 in this race. Of course, the Lamborghini from Spirit of FF Racing and the Corvette, yesterday's race-winning car from Bingo Racing in the wars coming down into turn 1. Now, a car that's made an extra pit stop there is the number 88 Mercedes by the looks of things. That's just coming back out into the order again. That's one of the 2 888 JMR cars in the hands of Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim. He took over from Lucas Stoltz. Other cars coming out in the background. And a message is coming up on the screen. Next time around, the safety car will lead the field through the pit lane. That's because there is so much debris across the circuit. And Jeffrey Lee is out of that Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. I was waiting for that. he would have undoubtedly been winded. That was a huge hit against the pit wall, and it happened all on his own. I thought we were going to see another car just try and burst out of the slipstream. Dead ahead we were looking and you couldn't see, but there's Jeffrey, and he's walking freely. That is very good news. So he's going to be cleared away. The car will be cleared away, and there's the pit wall being open for him to get through. And gather your senses. We will find. Well, it's good to see the damage isn't too bad on that number 911 Porsche, but Vutagon in through Fuvasak, having come out to contest the lead of the race, is coming around behind the safety car in 17th position. And so the number 2 Mercedes at the front of the queue. Zhu Bizhuang. Dennis Lind started that car from the outside of the front row. No success penalty to serve to elongate their pit stop. He's at the front of the queue. The 718 Porsche in behind. That is the car that's leading GT4. And at the moment it's being driven by the second driver, Neihiko Otsuka, in behind Paul Ip for KCMG. This could be the biggest result of his racing career if he could take second place in this race. He's running second in GT3. That Porsche Cayman, of course, is running a lap down, so that won't feature in the top 10 in the results. But yesterday it could have been a race win. Today it still could be for D-Station Racing, because Satoshi Hoshino is up into third place of the GT3 runners. That's the Aston Martin from D-Station Racing just down the hill. Fear not, these cars being led into the pit lane and not being led in there to park. They're being led in because they're going to follow through the pit lane while the debris on the start-finish straight is cleared up. We have 16.5 minutes remaining in this most extraordinary race, packed with more incident than you can possibly imagine. Car Guy Racing, number 1 Takeshi Kimura, coming through in 7th place. Car that deserves a great deal of praise for its increased performance today. NK Racing, Kiyoshi Uchiyama is in that car, having taken over for Tsubasa Kondo. Car 71 had been running very strongly, is now second in GT4. Got shuffled around, that's the Akilan Racing Toyota, around the time of the pit stops. Through the pit lane, back out onto the circuit. Now, the job that needs to be done by the Porsche Cayman is to keep up, at least, with the safety car queue, because the driver behind, Paul Ip, in that KCMG Honda, will be thinking, I don't want Zhu Bizhuang to get away from me. And Zhu Bizhuang driving the number 2 Mercedes from Climax Racing, that is the lead car in the queue behind the safety car. So looking to see who else has gained positions through all of that. Certainly the Audi crew, I spotted just as the time the pit stops were happening. The one right in the middle of the screen is placed very well indeed. That's the number 13 entry from Audi Sport Asia Team Absolute, started by Frankie Chen Kongfu. Sun Jing Su is at the wheel of that, so they could be picking up a much better result than they might have expected. Car 13 right on the tail of the number 4 Porsche. It's got Wei Lu at the wheel. So just incredible manufacturer diversity here at Fuji Speedway. Tight, competitive racing. Whereas yesterday we had really clean racing without contact, today unfortunately we've had the contact, often small, but some of the outcomes have been fairly large, and it's been very, very spectacular here at Fuji Speedway. So how many laps will we run behind the safety car? Oh, there's been a black flag for car number 50, I'm now noticing, which is YZ Racing with BMW Team Studio. It's the BMW that won at a canter in GT4 yesterday. Black flag for that, waiting for clarification for why. That means over and out for Masaki Kano, who took over from Manabu Orido. We saw the car fleetingly off the track at, I think, about turn 12. It was certainly on the climb up from turn 10 towards that final corner. I think it was the tighter of the two right-left uphill combinations, but black flag means over and out for them. So with course vehicles up ahead, the SC banner flashing, the light flashing on the gantry. Still the clear-up operation will continue. Still, for the second time, the safety car will come in and out of the pits, leading the field of cars. So Mercedes front of the queue, car number 2. Climax Racing Mercedes. The car that's leading GT4 a lap down is tucked in behind. It will stay there. in the hands of Naohiko Otsuka. But as soon as the safety car does release the field, presuming it does, because the clock's counting down to just 13 minutes remaining, that Porsche will be gulfed by the cars behind. So let's have a look. You wonder what it looks like in the pits? You wonder what it looks like when you're being driven by a driver in a brand new 296 GT3 Ferrari. It's Takeshi Kimura. He is your guide to the pit lane. His teammate Kei Cozzolino was our driver guide on the track before the start of this race. So the pit crews, the first drivers all standing out in the pit lane, watching their teammates come through, chants for messages for the car guy racing crew. All is fine for Kimura. So, expecting top results. Quite a few of the Ferrari runners still in last year's car, the 488 GT, and they've all been having great looks at this car, the Car Guy Racing 296, the only one in Asia so far. Already a 296 GT3 won the Nürburgring 24 hours. It has a car that has pedigree. It's lower, sleeker than the 488. Still a very quick car, the 488, but being driven really well this weekend by Kei Cozzolino and the driver on board, Takeshi Kimura. Another chance to ride in the pits. This is the Comet Racing number 7 Ferrari. This is a 488 GT3. The eagle-eye might spot differences in the cockpit, but right now Yusuke Yamasaki is just biding his time. The minutes are counting down. For all these drivers, they want to go racing before the hour is up. They do not want the hour to be completed, the race to be brought to an end behind the safety car. The rescue crews and the clear-up crews doing their utmost. And as the drivers leave the pit lane, there is the Mezawa Ferrari accelerating hard. It's sorry, not Mezawa, it's the Comet Racing Ferrari accelerating hard. And in the background, that number 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes is being winched up, craned up onto the back of the truck. But for the drivers in the pit lane, it's a case of staying at 50 kph until they get to pit exit. They cross the line, and then and only then can they release the pit lane speed limiter and go racing again. In the background of the shot, car number 50 is being pushed back into the garage, having been disqualified. Let's go down. The 77 Mercedes in trouble. Let's hear from his driver, Maxi Goertz.
Maxi, first of all, is Jeffrey okay?
Yeah, seems to be. He's in the hospital now, or like in the medical center to get some checks. But he was coming out of the car by himself, and he walked through the pit lane, so which is a good sign. But unfortunately, it was a really hard hit. He lost the car above 220, 230. It seems to be a following damage of my puncture before. So on the pit stop, we changed the tires because I had a puncture rear left. And yeah, and then I think one lap after, something happened on the rear. We don't know yet, but we have to analyze it. But it's unfortunately a big one, and yeah, so luckily he's fine.
Let's hope for a quick recovery of him and for the next race then.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had a solid start, a good position, and then all the safety cars, and it's a chaotic race so far, to be honest. Many crashes, many damages, so that's the way we don't want to race here, because unfortunately the fans are really packed the grandstands, and really looking forward to have some good racing, but this was a bit too much. And I lost the gear as well early in the race, and I got hit from the Porsche from behind, and this forces the puncture. So in the end, yeah, it's part of racing, but unfortunate for us.
A very, bad day for you guys, but yeah, let's look forward to next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Maxi Goertz being very sanguine there. Of course, they know they're competitive. They took a second place in the second of the two races in the opening round at Chang International Circuit at Buriram in Thailand. But so much incident and action so far in this race. Safety car still leading them around. And let's take a look. Let's refresh. This is what happened on one of the restarts, the second restart. Dennis Lind in behind. Tiniest bit of contact, and in fact a message has come up as Danny Juncadale went off and didn't rejoin. The number 2 Mercedes that caused that has just been given a drive-through penalty for that contact. So that was what we look at now. Vuitton into Fuvasak, and again it's that number 2 Mercedes, but this time with the second driver on board, and it dispatches Vuitton, the championship leader, off into the barriers. So there is a drive-through for number 2, and it's been involved in 2 incidents. So drive-through coming the way, and then all on his own. And as Maxi Goertz explained, Jeffrey Lee was just a passenger at 200 kph or more, accelerating flat out when something went wrong on that Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes. A car that had a little bit of damage because it had a puncture. The left rear tyre had gone down. We saw it when it was brought into the pits, and presumably because of that, something has failed. But the good news is Jeffrey Lee is out of that car and okay. But the clock still coming down. It's just over 8 minutes to go. Still the clear-up operation is underway. I sense I'm looking at the lights on the safety car, willing them to be turned off, but the car leading the queue has a drive-through penalty to serve. So that means, drum roll for fans of KCMG, the car third in the queue of cars, the Honda NSX, in the hands of the team boss, Paul Lipp, the team owner, should be at the front of the queue. He is heading for what will be a famous and unexpected victory. Yesterday we had a famous and unexpected victory. Safety car will be in at the end of this lap, and then of course number 2 should be driving in for its drive-through penalty. Here we go, lights off on the roof of the safety car will be in this lap, and for Zhu Bizhuang sitting aboard the car that's leading the round, he knows he has to serve a penalty for contact, 2 periods of contact for that number 2 Mercedes. Front right-hand corner shows the scar of war. You can see the point of contact there. That's when it spun around. Well, I'll give you a choice of 2 incidents, but he is controlling the restart. He backs it off. Is he going to come in and serve his drive-through penalty this time around or next? How late will he leave it? And then if he pulls off, you can expect that Porsche Cayman to pull out of the way and be accelerated past by the blue and white KCMG Honda. But D-Station Racing could have taken victory. They had a drive-through penalty yesterday for not lasting the full time in the pits. They were a second short. That cost them victory, but KCMG goes into the effective lead of the race. Paul Lipp absolutely flat out here at Fuji. We've got 6 minutes 40 seconds left on the clock of this 1 hour race, and right now Zhu Bizhuang is trying to stretch the advantage at the front of the field. He's got to come and serve a penalty, looking for the battle for third, and it really is a battle. And Jing Su-sun, I said look out for the blue Audi, was coming, but it's coming too deep to the corner, and in behind, Wei Lu says okay, I'll take that position back. And the number 55 McLaren, driven entirely by one driver, Tadeo Uematsu, has got up to 5th place. The safety cars, the timing of his stop worked to perfection, so suddenly we've got a McLaren challenging. This is an event of so many unexpected outcomes and some peculiar consequences. Wei Lu dives down the inside of the Porsche. Very well done to Otsuka to get out of the way in that one. Nehiko Otsuka, he lets the front runners come through. Here are the front runners. KCMG, Paul Lipp, can he hang on? Because certainly he's being pushed very, very hard indeed. Oh no, a great result surely was coming the way of NK Racing. It was in 8th place, but Uchiyama has spun out. Was he pushed? Was he shoved? What an advantage that's gone out between first and second, but the car, the Climax Racing Mercedes number 2, has to serve a drive-through penalty. This is the effective lead battle, and you can be absolutely sure D-Station Racing, they lost it yesterday, they're going to go for it today without any trouble at all. But is it going to be another safety car period, because that spun NK Racing Porsche is down at turn 1, but deep into turn 1 wasn't the better line for the Aston Martin, because he made the gate. There'll be yellow at the first turn, but the KCMG Honda is in front. Well, who was in front? They're coming down as they reach the yellow flag. The Aston Martin puts his nose in front, but they've got to back off. There could be no taking under yellow. There you can see the waved yellow on the approach to the corner. That may be an incident they have to look at. The NK Racing Porsche sitting right ahead of the drivers, and the driver who really fancies a move is in 3rd place now. Wei Lu pushing on in that purple Porsche. D-Station Racing Aston Martin has not only pulled ahead of the KCMG Honda, but it's pulling away. But I think we'll have to look about whether the move was completed before they reach those yellow flags waved on the approach to turn 2. Almost dead. Look at the clock. Yeah, I have looked. 4 minutes to go in this race. Could anything else happen? Has anybody not had an incident in this race? It's been fast, it's been furious, and it's certainly been fraught. Paul Lipp still on the inside line, still waiting for the number 2 Mercedes that's street clear. 5 and a bit seconds clear, but that owes us a visit to the pits for a drive-through penalty, which surely will drop it out of the top 10. Paul Lipp is running in lofty company. I didn't expect him to hold up all those behind. He may hold up a few, but certainly no disrespect to the KCMG boss. We'll be loving this, but not liking the fact he's just been passed by one R&B Racing Porsche, and the sister car is having a look as well. Car number 87, Liu Yi at the wheel of that. Picks him off without trouble at all. This is a driver who qualified fastest for yesterday's first race, but had a 5-place grid penalty that really rather cost him. Still looking to atone. And the Car Guy Racing Ferrari, just tucked down in that three-car battle, getting closer and closer to Takeshi Kimura. What can he do? The BMW right in there in front of him as well. Still yellow as we go down to the first turn. Still that NK Racing Porsche. They would have seen it last time around, sitting sideways. Headed, they will know you cannot overtake. Well, we're going to have to see. I think the stewards could be slightly busy down there because those waved yellow flags mean one thing: no overtaking. You can see the NK Racing Porsche being shifted clear. So close. Takeshi Kimura has the BMW from Plus with BMW Team Studio across his bows. Tomohide Yamaguchi holds on into turn 3. And the car that clashed and spun the NK Racing Porsche was car number 29, the Phantom Pro, one of the 2 Phantom Pro Racing Audis. Ling Kang at the wheel of that. So I think there could be a few penalties after this race is concluded. Don't write the results down in ink is the only clue I can give you right now. Not much more time in this race. It's over 2 minutes. Still waiting for the drive-through penalty to be served by Climax Racing. Surely they're not going to try and complete the race and then argue their case, but they have probably fairly weak ground to be standing on, because certainly that number 2 Climax Mercedes had contact with not one but 2 race leaders, both of which spun off across its bows. Car Guy Racing still looking for a good result on home ground. Satoshi Hoshino will be getting surely a good result on home ground. Another place lost by the Honda. The Honda is very, very good at a tight exit from the final corner. And look for Tadeo Uematsu still hanging on in that blue McLaren, but he's been passed by several cars. Jingsu Sun, another blue car, the Audi, car number 13, has also got past him. But that BMW really has made up ground. It's running 5th in the hands of Tomohide Yamaguchi, so done very well. Can Paul Ip hanging on to 6th place, which will become 5th when the drive-through penalty is served. And yes, another drive-through penalty. It's the car 29 for causing the incident, so it's already in the hands of Kang Ling down in 26th position. Up front though, Hoshino, Liu and Yi. 2 cars, 2 Porsches from R&B Racing, but D-Station Racing with the clock counting down to next to nothing into the final minute. Surely Satoshi Hoshino can hang on. Could have been the victors yesterday. Drive-through penalty for being 1 second under their minimum pit stop time. That really, really hurt them. Took them out of the points, out of the top 10 in race 1. Dropped them down to 17th at flagfall. But today, it seems, surely this will be their day. Really fierce battling early on by Tomonobu Fuji. Normally doing the overtaking, today doing the defending. But right now, Satoshi Hoshino, he picked off Paul Ip in the KCMG Porsche. Now, the number 2 Mercedes Climax Racing has decided to take the choice of not serving the drive-through penalty and will take a time penalty. A lot of teams opt to do this. He's staying, he'll be the first to checkered flag, but race victory will go to D-Station Racing. Then really fierce here will be effective 1st, 2nd and 3rd. The Mercedes at the bottom of your screen, just under the graphic, will be the first to checkered flag but has not served its drive-through penalty. They will be clobbered with the drive-through penalty. So the D-Station Racing Aston Martin here will take victory with 2 R&B Porsches in 2nd and 3rd positions. What a race. And Aston Martin Racing, I think you could say they're very happy. D-Station Racing, local team, local smiles, and a brilliant run from the BMW to come up to effective 3rd position for Yamaguchi. No, the results have been 4th position. The results have now been altered, so the end order is the D-Station Racing Aston Martin first, car number 47. 4 and 87, the R&B Racing Porsches in 2nd and 3rd. 4th place, Yamaguchi in the BMW, and quietly working its way to the front, Climax Racing, the car that started in the hands of Dennis Lind and Zhu Bizhuang, dropped down to 5th place. That's a 10-second penalty that moves them 5 seconds away from the ultimate result. So there's the answer. They didn't serve the penalty. I think we'll have a further penalty rather larger than that, but certainly our top finishers. In GT4, it's the 718 Porsche. That's Otsuka at the wheel at the moment. Great run for K-Mania Racing. And it's a GT4 AM crew, so all the more impressive. But the order kept on changing right to the very end. And one of only 2 all-silver crews ended up 3rd overall. That was Liu Yi Hong Lee, car number 87. And Bo Yuan got up to 3rd place overall. So many changes. Fastest lap of the race rather got lost in all of that action, but that was Danny Juncadea who started from pole. And that has been, well, if you're a journalist, your notebook will be very full. But victory, undoubtedly, going to the driver who started, Tomonobu Fuji, and Satoshi Hoshino, who brought it home for D-Station Racing. What a great run for them. Driving into the pit lane, will be driving under the winner's arch, and it's been a weekend of highs and lows on their home circuit, but that was a high in front of this record field of 39 starters. Should have been 40, one of the cars was damaged yesterday, but under the arch, pulling it through to the point where it says winner, and that's precisely what they are. The drums ring out. From R&B Racing, their two Porsches come in behind, very happy with their form as well. And just going down the classes at the end, GT3 AM was won by the driver who finished 6th overall, Tadao Uematsu, who did the entire race on his own, so he earns a lot of accolade for that performance. In fact, the safety car periods would have rather helped him there, giving him a chance to have a bit of a breather in all that attacking. But Satoshi Hoshino and the driver who's had a chance to cool down, the driver who started, Tomonobu Fuji, delighted with life. And boy, has that lit up the championship. And don't forget, we've got the Japan Cup as a sort of subclass, if you will, but it's a very major subclass, and they would have taken maximum haul of points in that. And I think what they say is and pause, but we don't pause, and we're heading down to Amy very soon because she's catching up with a popular duo taking a famous win. Satoshi Hoshino still with his helmet on, but the finger up for number one, and Tomonobu Fuji had a chance to sort of live through and look at the other safety car periods in a race packed full of incidents. And D-Station Racing simply hopping up and down with delight down there in Parc Fermé. So what a race, so much action. But let's go down and hear from our winners, Satoshi Hoshino and the driver who started, Tomonobu Fuji.
藤井選手、ここ富士スピードウェイで優勝おめでとうございます。
はい、ありがとうございます。これ英語、日本語どっちでもいい。
どっちでもいいです。Congratulations.
Thanks so much. I have to say Japanese maybe.
In Japanese then. もうとんでもないレースでしたけれども、この結果いかがでしょう。
そうですね。昨日はね2位争いしてて 0.02 秒、コンマ1秒よりもちっちゃいピットタイムで悔しい思いしたんですけど、まあ今日は12番スタートなんでもうチャンスないかなと思ってたんですけど、意外とレースの中で順位をちょこちょこ上げていけて、でSC もあったんでトップとの差も少ない状態でピットに入ったんですけど、そのピットのタイミングをずっと考えてて、一番トラフィックのないタイミングで入れたんで、ピットアウト後いいところに出れて、で最後星野選手がもうすごくいい、走りをしてくれたんで、ピットアウト後に結構稼いでもらったんで、なんとか優勝につながりました。本当にチームと星野さんとみんなに感謝してます。はい。
First of all, thank you very much to the team and everyone surrounding this team. Today was very difficult despite all what happened on track, and there was not much racing going on, but they were able to catch up during the race as well, and they also did a super pit stop. The timing was perfect, so that's what the result is here today. 星野選手、実質トップっていうのをどの時点で？
無線でSC で走ってる時に知りました。はい。
So he knew that he was practically P1 during the safety car, so that was quite a relief for him. でも本当におめでとうございました。
そうですね。藤井選手の走りも素晴らしかったんですけど、今日はピットワークの勝利だと思います。チームワークの勝利です。
改めておめでとうございました。It was really the pit work. That's all he said, and he's really happy.
Thank you very much, Amy. I think Satoshi Hoshino being rather modest there. He had to do his part towards the close of that race. And for Aston Martin fans, that's a big one for there. Here, D-Station Racing taking victory, flanked by the two Porsches from R&B Racing. But right now, the smiles for D-Station Racing and their crew, the famous 47 Aston Martin, here on home ground, applauding, taking the applause of the fans in the grandstands opposite, and a lot of their fans up and down the pit lane who really like this team for just pushing on for Japan all around the world. And great victory, but they, along with the other teams, have a lot of time to absorb what went on in this race. But again, it was about working the tactics through the three safety car periods and maximising the performance with some good attacking and defensive driving from the pair of them, from the driver who started, Tomonobu Fuji, and for Satoshi Hoshino. And now they'll be led away towards the podium ceremony, where you could be sure they will look very, very happy indeed with what was a famous win. So, for all the fans in the stands, almost don't know where to go. They'll still be buzzing after phenomenal race. Well, let's take a look back at the highlights. Where do we start? Well, let's start at the start. Beautiful to see the peak of Mount Fuji, and on the grid the tension really rose, but it was a very clean start from pole position from Danny Juncadé. He's on the left of screen alongside Dennis Lind, pushing behind, and third and fourth rows trying to get in on the action as well. But the first three stayed tight. Kei Cozzolino nipping around in that bright yellow Ferrari, trying to see if he could gain an advantage, but actually lost out to Alessio Picariello around the outside between turn 1 and 2, and unfortunately the team Gojigan Nissan spun around at the first corner. That led to the first safety car. Then the field was released and the racing started in earnest all over again, with Dennis Olsen making progress. And then down the start-finish straight came yesterday's race-winning Corvette, and unfortunately a little bit of a clash with Hiroshi Hamaguchi, and that put Akira Aida into the barriers, high into the air, and the cars, both of them, into the gravel. Cue another safety car period. It was all about controlling the restarts. This is another restart, and unfortunately for Danny Juncadé, a tiny bit of contact from behind from Dennis Lind, pitched his car off the circuit. He was out of the race, and Alessio Picariello nipped into the lead. And then it was the timing of the pit stops that was crucial for so many drivers. Look, that number 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes came in with a left rear tyre. More of that anon. Rest of the pit stops nice and clean. Where would the cars slot out? The 911 stayed out as long as it could before Alessio Picariello handed over to teammate Vucicon Intrafuvasak, who took over in the lead of the race. And then it was that number 2 Mercedes all over again. More contact, this time with the second driver on board, Zhu Bizhuang, and around went Vucicon Intrafuvasak and into the barriers. He was able to continue, but this 77 Craft Bamboo Racing car, the one that came in with that flat rear tyre, clearly some damage was done before in that flat, and round went Jeffrey Lee and out of the race. A long safety car period while that was cleared up. Good to see he was okay. And then when the field was released, D-Station Racing Aston Martin came through second to the line, but the number 2 Mercedes in the foreground was to pick up a penalty because they didn't serve a drive-through. That's dropped them to 23rd overall, but first place to the Aston Martin, second place to the 2 and third place to the R&B Racing Porsches down from China. Well, a famous win on home ground, and you could see the delight on the D-Station Racing crew. Job well done, and credit too to the BMW that came through to fourth in a frantic, frenetic race. 1 hour with so much action, it's hard to know where to start, but you can never mask the delight of winning on home ground, and that's what it meant to them. And so now, as the music rings out, Amy Azar will call the drivers out onto the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony from race 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS.
It has been a phenomenal weekend of action. Anyone who gets to the finish in a field as big as this deserves applause. Anybody who can finish on the podium deserves even more accolade and applause. So Bojuan and Liu Yihong Li coming out onto third step on the podium. So R&B Racing looking very competitive because they also took second place, and the second place crew, car number 4, Lu Wei and Dennis Olsen. Dennis in the white overalls, Lu in the black ones. And we saw them cheering in front of the car, taking the applause. D-Station Racing, Satoshi Hoshino and Tomonobu Fuji. Delighted with their win for Aston Martin here at Fuji International Speedway. So now looking for the presentation of the trophies. Tyre supplier Pirelli. They present the trophies, and for D-Station Racing, very, very pleased with their result. 1 trophy, 2 trophies. Trophies are lost. Aloft, and you can be sure there are many, many photographs going to be taken here, not just by the professional photographers, the official photographer, but fans in the grandstand as well. They get a great view down onto the podium. Just enough space for 6 drivers up there. Victory anyway in Fanatec GT Asia is going to be very, very tricky to achieve, but to do it on home ground, all the more delighting for D-Station Racing. So no wonder they're looking, basking in the glory up on the top step of the podium there. And once the racing is over, no race 2 to follow. That was race 2. The champagne can be sprayed with real enthusiasm up on the top step. Those overalls can be dry cleared later, but the fizz, the release of pressure after an incredibly tense race. It was about mastering not just an hour of racing and a driver change, but those 3 safety car periods. as well as all the overtaking, and a great advertisement for GT3 racing, and certainly this is a championship that grows and grows. And so just to point out, let's run through the results. They changed almost by the lap, but at the end it was D-Station Racing taking victory for Satoshi Hoshino and Tomonobu Fujii. Second place to Wei Lu and Dennis Olsen for R&B Racing in their Porsche in the sister car, running in the Silver Cup class. Bo Yuan and Liu Yi. And then plus with BMW Team Studi doing really well to work their way up to fourth. And a great result for the KCMG Honda in fifth place, Eduardo Liberati and Paul Ip. And driving entirely on his own, driving solo, Tadeo Uematsu coming through to take victory in the AM class in sixth overall. That's outstanding in his McLaren. Best of the Audis was in seventh. Jingsu Sun and Frankie Chen. Kei Cozzolino and Takeshi Kimura in their brand new Ferrari had to make do with eighth. So this is the AM podium. The first crew up was the Comet Racing duo with their brand new Ferrari. They're new to them anyhow, Yusuke Yamasaki and Yorikatsu Tsujiko. In second place, car number 3, Climax Racing, their other Mercedes, Huyuki and Bianhao Yi. And up onto the top step at a real canter, all on his own, Tadeo Uematsu. No one to hand over to, did it all on his own in his McLaren. So that number 55 entry has had a fabulous start to its Japan Cup campaign, winning in the AM class. Wow, that was such a busy race. The class battles almost lost in the overall battle there because it was frantic before the pit stops through those 2 safety car restops, after the pit stop with the 3rd safety car. But for all these drivers, keeping out of trouble was key. And they ended up at the very sharp end of their class. And for Tadeo Uematsu on the top step, 6th overall, that was phenomenal. But don't forget, last year we had at Suzuka, one of the races was won by an all-AM lineup as well. So it can happen. But this is a competitive run in a field that gets more and more competitive with every year. So we'll still have further podium ceremony for GT4 as well. So thank you very much to all the drivers in GT3 AM. The bubbly can spray. And for Tadeo Uematsu, well, if you win, expect a hosing down. And that's exactly what he's got. It's also very pleasing to see a driver who's had more than 50 candles on his cake take success at this top level. So GT3 AM victory for Tadeo Uematsu, all on his own in his McLaren 720S. Good to see the fans staying on after that race too. There are further races to come, but to enjoy all the celebration down on the podium. And the paddock has been absolutely thronging all weekend. A lot of the fans have their own positions they love to watch from around this circuit with so many great vantage points. Sit up high, sit down low, and there is the view that we all adore. Mount Fuji. So there is the results for GT3 AM with Tadeo Uematsu winning ahead of Climax Racing with their Mercedes, Comet Racing with their Ferrari, and AMAC Motorsport just lost out of the top 3 to finish 4th in their Porsche in the GT3 AM class. And in GT4 it was the 718 crew, Czech Shop K-Mania Racing with their Porsche Cayman 718 up on the top step there. Naohiko Otsuka and Sho Kobayashi. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I thought I read 718. It's 71. That's the the GT4 Silver AM podium. That's car number 71, Akiland Racing Crew, Masayoshi Oyama and Ryohei Sakugiki. And Ryohei's closer to the camera here. And then we will have the GT4 AM podium. So second overall for Akiland Racing in GT4, but they won the Silver AM class with their class rival having been disqualified. Yet to find out the reason for that. Quite a few penalties were issued in that race with drive-through. A lot of action, but it's been a good weekend for the GT4 runners, and champagne in the eyes, a small price to take for class victory in GT4 Silver AM. So it's going to be goodbye from us here for a fabulous weekend of racing. Fanatec GT Asia. That's it from me, Bruce Jones. And the last podium ceremony of the event for GT4 AM, but better than that, it's GT4 AM that took outright victory. Second in class was the K-Tunes Racing crew in their Toyota GR Supra GT4, Masanori Nagami and Hiromitsu Fuji, but overall victory for the 718 crew. They won the class. It's Czech Shop K-Mania Racing, Naohiko Otsuka and Sho Kobayashi. They took class victory today, banked the points for victory, and that will set up their campaign very nicely indeed in the Japan Cup. Fast on the track and almost slightly too fast with the champagne there, but Naohiko Otsuka realised that the trophies had to be awarded, so the bearded figure, they'll just have to hold on a tiny bit longer before he can let the bubbly fly. And for those runners in GT4, clearly their pace is nowhere near the GT3s, but they do a fantastic job of having their own scraps while keeping out of the way. Well, not one or two cars come through, but great packs of hunting GT3 cars. But the Fuji International Speedway affords them the space to do that, and they played their part too. Their numbers will grow through the course of the season, and we're looking forward to a GT4 only race, or pair of races, in the final Japanese race of the season, which will be at Okayama. And now the champagne can be unleashed. The last of the podium ceremonies for the second of the two races here for Fanatec GT Asia, and the joy is unalloyed. It's been a weekend of extraordinary circumstance, some brilliant racing yesterday, plenty of action today, a lot of action today. And for all the finishers, well done. All the class winners, applause to them as well. Next round of the championship will be at Suzuka, another classic circuit on which to go and play. It's been a weekend I will remember for a very, very long time. So, what does that mean to the championship? Well, Vuta Kornitzer, Fuvasaka, Alessio Picariello came here as championship leaders. They lead here, but the 11th place today wasn't what they wanted, but they still lead. Their lead reduced from 10 points to 8. And Wei Lu and Dennis Olsen, another good result, moves them up to second place overall. Anthony Liu, Craft Bamboo Racing, he shares with different drivers, but he's good for third overall. So, this may not be the last time I get to see the top of Mount Fuji bursting clear of the clouds, but it's been a great weekend here. Fabulous racing, a packed field of cars, and I think we can safely say that Fanatec GT Asia has set off its Japan campaign of 4 rounds in fabulous style. The fans have enjoyed it. I've absolutely loved it. There's been a real mix-up of results, but they say cream rises to the top, and I think AAS Motorsport will concur with that.